100 years from now, people will look back on this as a primitive society. You know, oh my God, what were they doing? They took all the coal and oil and natural gas that took over 300 million years to form. They took all of it and they tried to burn it up in a 300-year period. My daughter would say, OMG. How primitive. How do we know that the CO2 signal is due to us? It's a trace gas in the atmosphere after all. It's 385 parts per million. You know, just as 385 parts in a million parts of air is the greenhouse gas. So, you know, you could ask the Philistine question, so what? Just a trace gas, we've modified a trace gas in the atmosphere. So what? And what's more, how do we know it was caused by us? We know for sure that it's caused by us. There's no doubt about it. There's no lack of consensus. There's that for three reasons, at least, shown here. One is, it started at just the right time. The signal started going up just when we began to burn coal in the Industrial Revolution. So number one, the signal began at the right time. Number two, the amount, if you see the amount that it's going up each year, it's about, right now, about 2 parts per million. And that 2 parts per million is about half of the total mass of emissions each year, we know. So number one, the timing is right. Number two, the amount that's accumulating in the atmosphere is right and can be completely explained by our own emissions, the other half of which we think is going into the oceans and into the terrestrial environment, into the forests. Number one, the timing is right. Number two, the amount is right. Number three, from flights and other data not shown here, we can see the CO2 mixing from the northern hemisphere, from the countries that are emitting it, like the US, and how it mixes across the planet. The dynamics are right. So for all three reasons, we know for a fact that CO2 is being caused by humans. We know also for a fact that CO2 is a greenhouse gas. It's just like gravity, honestly. It's not a theory, it's a fact. Forget Kyoto, right? Kyoto was 5 or 8% emission reduction. That's baby steps. That's nothing. We have to have an 80% emission reduction to avoid dangerous interference with climate. What's more, and I think this is lost on most people, even if we could level off the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere today at 385 parts per million, even if we could do that, and we can't do that, we'd have to stop all emissions to do that. But even if we could do that, level it off at 385, we've already set into motion warming, as I told you, because the gases haven't had, they have a long half-life in the atmosphere and they haven't had time to warm the Earth and the oceans to an equilibrium temperature yet. We would still have another 0.6 degrees Celsius warming. Remember, we've had 0.8. So we'd almost have as much warming, even if we could stop all emissions today, we'd have almost as much warming coming as we've experienced in the last 100 years. I hope you're starting to get the idea of what we're up against here in terms of the time lags, and now we're going to talk about the tipping points. So we think, and there's a lot of uncertainty, but we think that the warmer ocean is undercutting these ice sheets in Antarctica. And the Ross Shelf and the Larsen Ice Shelf, what happens is it's again an abrupt thing. So it's totally irreversible. Once that happens, that ice sheet took millennia, hundreds of thousands of years to form. When you lose that in an abrupt act, first of all, the sea level goes way up, tens of meters up, but you don't put that back. Not even like the Arctic ice in 100 years or 200, you don't put it back. So it's an irreversible tipping point, and I think that's lost on the average American anyway, that we're messing around with the Earth's climate system. We're heading towards an ice-free planet, And the tipping points are largely irreversible on any kind of a timeline that humans would care to think about. When do we begin to turn it around? You know, when do the emissions first start to go down? We said 50 or 90% in 2050, that's a long way off. But when do we actually turn it? Right now, it's going up at about 1 to 2% per year. When in the world are we going to say, enough, enough, we can do it? I don't know if we're in denial or if we're confused, or that if we've been confused by people purposely, I don't know. But whatever is the case, people aren't ready to act yet. Everything is going to have to change. How can we anticipate that? How can we lead that? And how can we respond to that? Wind power is one. We have a Spanish company named Acciona Energy in West Branch, Iowa, just to the east of us, who, if you talk to them, they are very worried about climate change, but they see that that's the central mission of their company to help mitigate it. And they're excited about it, and they're enthusiastic about it. And they're facing it with a challenge mentality, like how we ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. The challenge of putting a man on the moon. That's how they see it. In Spain. Why can't we see it like that? You know, what is wrong with us? What happened to the can-do American spirit? So why tax my productivity? Why not tax my unsustainability? Right? Why not tax my profligate use of fuels? Why not tax my carbon dioxide that I put back into the atmosphere? Why not switch our subsidies? You know, how nuts is it that we have an oil depletion allowance? It's just crazy, you know. Why not, instead of having a road use tax, go to make more roads so we can drive more vehicle miles, more cars? Good Lord, we have 240 million vehicles in the United States of America. We only have 210 million driver's licenses. We have more cars than people to drive them. More vehicle miles traveled each year. Bigger and bigger vehicles, come on. Come on. We're using technologies from 1987. We can do a lot better than that. Why not, instead of taxing gasoline and putting it into roads, why not put it into light rail and freight rail and bike paths? We can do good and do well. We really can. But you got to change the way Americans are thinking about it. We're going about it all wrong. Looking at this, oh my gosh, this is so terrible. It's going to ruin our economy. We can't do it. Don't make me, don't regulate me, don't do this. No, there's opportunity here. There's low-hanging fruit. Our vehicles are about 25% of all our emissions. We haven't even tried to make them better. Not since 1987 had we had an increase in CAFE standards. We haven't even tried. I drive a Honda Civic hybrid. I get about 40 miles a gallon. With my hybrid, I already have an electric engine. I have a gasoline engine. I have two engines already. What I don't have is a storage tank for the electric engine to store a significant amount of energy. What if I had one? Toyota's working on it, Chrysler's working on it, GM's working on it. What if I had a storage battery? I run my car into the garage at night. I also have smart metering, which we don't have. So I have cheaper prices charged to me for power at off-peak hours. We need that. I plug in after 10 o'clock at night. I'm getting wind energy because the wind blows more at night than it does during the daytime. So I fill up my car with wind energy. By the way, at 9 cents a kilowatt hour, what I'm presently paying, that's about 50 cents a gallon. So I fill up for 50 cents a gallon, electricity in my tank. I commute to work, so I drive about half of my commute. Half of my driving is commuting, half is long haul. So I use my electric battery for the commute. Boom! Instantly, I'm up to 80 miles a gallon per fossil fuel. Yeah. Now let's say I put flex fuel in my gasoline engine for my car, and I'm doing it with cellulosic biomass, which could be a great boon for states that know how to grow prairie grass, switchgrass. Now I'm up to almost 200 miles per gallon. That's the kind of efficiency that we need to achieve, and that we have to achieve, and that we will achieve in order to solve this problem.